Today, we are diving into something called permaculture design. Now, this is a revolutionary framework that's not just about gardening. It's about redesigning our world to work with nature, not against it. And honestly, it's a way of thinking that could change everything. Let's get into it.
At the very heart of permaculture is this one really powerful question. I mean, what if our farms, our homes, and even our businesses could function like resilient, self-sufficient ecosystems? That's the core idea we're going to unpack.
All right, here's our roadmap. First, we'll get a clear handle on what permaculture actually is. Then, we'll look at its ethical core. After that, we'll dive into the practical design principles, the real toolkit, see them in action, and finally wrap up with what this all means for our sustainable future.
Okay, so first things first, let's get a crystal clear idea of what we're actually talking about here.
So this term permaculture was actually coined by two guys, Bill Mollison and David Holmgren, way back in the 1970s. They mashed together the words permanent and agriculture because they were trying to imagine a truly lasting way of living. And here's the key thing to get. This isn't just about gardening. It's a whole design philosophy for creating systems that can sustain themselves, forever, without us constantly needing to prop them up.
And this quote, it just nails the whole mindset. It's a huge shift from trying to dominate nature to, well, humbly observing it, learning from its billions of years of R&D, and then weaving its patterns into our own lives.
Now, before you can build anything with permaculture, you've got to have a solid foundation. And that foundation is made up of 3 core ethics that basically act as a moral compass for every single design decision you make.
These 3 ethics are totally non-negotiable, and they're beautifully simple. Earth care is all about rebuilding nature, leaving the soil, the forests, and the water healthier than we found them. People care is about taking care of ourselves and each other. And fair share, that's about recognizing there are limits, taking only what we need, and putting any extra back into the system for the good of everyone. Together, they create this really balanced, holistic approach.
Okay, so if the ethics are the why, then the design principles, well, they're the how. Let's move on and see the practical toolkit for putting all these incredible ideas into action.
This toolkit gives us a way to translate those ethics into real-world designs. Think of these as a set of strategies for smart, sustainable thinking, no matter what problem you're trying to solve.
Okay, this is the heart of the whole thing, so let's spend a minute here, because this is where the magic really happens. It all starts with observe and interact. You don't just jump in and impose a design, you watch and you learn first. Then you can catch and store energy, like putting a greenhouse where it gets the most winter sun, or building up your soil so it holds rainwater. Principles like produce no waste are all about creating these elegant closed loops where the output of one thing becomes the input for another. But 2 of my absolute favorites are integrate rather than segregate and value diversity. So instead of a giant field of just corn, a permaculture design might create a food forest. Think about it. You've got fruit trees, then berry bushes under them, herbs, ground cover. They all grow together. The trees give shade, the ground cover keeps the soil moist, and some plants even fertilize the others. They actually support each other, creating a system that's way more resilient and productive than all those parts would be on their own. It's a complete system for intelligent problem solving.
So that's the toolkit, a really powerful set of principles. But does this stuff actually work outside of a textbook? Let's shift from theory to practice and see where these ideas are creating thriving ecosystems right now.
And this is so important to get. Permaculture isn't some niche hobby for off-gridders. No way. It's a serious framework being used to tackle major global issues, from climate change and food security all the way to building stronger local communities.
And check out these awesome examples. Zaytuna Farm in Australia. They took this piece of dry, totally degraded land and, using these exact principles, transformed it into a flourishing, productive ecosystem just teeming with life. And it's not just for big rural farms. In cities like Detroit, people are using permaculture to turn abandoned, empty lots into these vibrant community gardens that provide fresh, healthy food right where people live.
But the application of these principles goes even further than that. It's an incredibly flexible framework. It can be adapted to contexts way beyond just agriculture.
Businesses are really catching on too. They can use these principles to design sustainable office landscapes that slash water use and create healthier places for employees. They can streamline their resource management, turning what they used to call waste into valuable assets, which, of course, lowers costs. And they can engage with their local communities in much more meaningful, sustainable ways.
Okay, so let's pull all of this together and look at the big picture. Why does this design philosophy matter for every single one of us, no matter where we live or what we do?
The benefits are they're huge and they're clear. Environmentally, it helps fight climate change by pulling carbon into the soil and it rebuilds biodiversity. Economically, these systems cut long-term costs because you don't need so many outside inputs like fertilizers and pesticides. And socially, permaculture builds stronger, more collaborative, and more resilient communities. It really is a win-win-win.
So, in the end, what permaculture really teaches us is that every single one of us is a designer. Whether it's your backyard, your balcony, your business, or your community, you have the power to create systems that are regenerative, resilient, and in harmony with the world around you. So the real question it leaves us with is, how will you choose to design your world?